What up, everybody? Hope everybody's enjoying their Sunday fun day. I know I have a jam-packed day ahead of me, but I'm actually filming this on Saturday, so a couple things I won't be talking about is the Live from MSG show. I haven't seen it yet. I do plan on seeing it. Not sure if it's going to happen today, which is Saturday. Maybe tomorrow, although I doubt it. I may not even watch a whole lot of football, but it is Sunday fun day. I hope everyone's enjoying theirs. But now, I really wasn't sure what my topic was going to be. And sometimes I can wait, but I've seemed to have fallen into a routine about just talking about reviewing some, or takeaways from a lot of shows. But I thought I wanted to try something different, have more of a focus on a specific topic. But I really didn't have anything in mind Monday night as I was driving home. I was like, what am I going to really talk about? I had a couple, big topics. And as the week progressed, I've thought of a few. But then I was watching Raw on Monday. And specifically the first segment. First segment being the New Day interrupting John Cena's promo. John Cena, very polarizing figure because of how he's presented on the show, and some people's feeling that he shouldn't be that guy, even though ultimately, if you look at it, he probably should be that guy. And it is, it is the job of the WWE, and more importantly, the talent that do work there to try to find someone to replace, or a multitude of people to replace, or a brand that replaces. So as I'm watching it, the topic, the inspiration for the topic comes about. Because you'd have John Cena, again, polarizing, because again, he is presented as a hero, and in some people's eyes, he's the villain. And I've talked about it. If you boo him, then he's your villain. No need to change him from being a hero. It's much like Superman. He's not the most popular. He is iconically popular, but there is a group of haters that hate Superman, the epitome of superhero. They don't like him and say he's boring, so on and so forth. And then you've got John Cena, kind of gets the same flack. But I'm like, but if you change him, what is it? Unless it's an interesting change, an interesting reason to change. But anyway, and the New Day, presented as heels and doing a very good job of it, but very entertaining, extremely entertaining. And they, in fact, I think on WWE Shop they have socks, which I may get. I think that's the trend now, is the colorful sock, which is great, because I'm a big fan of socks. For those who don't know, you can always get over on me if you give me some really cool socks. I'm not saying that you have to, I'm just saying. But anyway, so I thought about it as the week progressed. And as opposed to doing the normal, hey, these are my takeaways, although I will do that with Raw, because that was really kind of the inspiration. As I was watching Raw, it is kind of it's definitely a microcosm of the WWE as a whole. So, but I also wanted to look at other things, because honestly, heroes and villains, it's a thing, and some would say it's an outdated premise, although superhero films are pretty big, and that is a battle of good versus evil. But there are instances, like with the New Day, who are extremely popular at being what they are, which is a heel group. And there are others that have fallen in line with that. But I thought it's kind of wider ranging, because ultimately wrestling, or WWE's presentation of it, is a microcosm of the world. And in some respects, certain heels do such a good job that they do get cheered, and some become they're the point of view of the narrative that's being displayed. Like, for instance, Dexter of Dexter. a heel. If you really think about it, he's a serial killer. The only reason we probably agree with it is that he's killing other very bad people. But he's got a code, and I guess that is what's supposed to make you see him as the protagonist as opposed to the antagonist. But the truth is, big time villain, if you really think about it. And ultimately, I think why the payoff for him, his series finale, was such a was probably not well received, was because in the end, the villain, the true villain, which is Dexter, even though we root for him, but he's still the villain, did not get his comeuppance. You think of Walter White from Breaking Bad, one of my favorite shows. From start to finish, had no issue with that show overall. Walter White, villain. Again, great villains have a shred of truth to what they say because you can kind of see their point. He is a drug dealer to help support his family because of this horrible disease that he has. But in the end, he was the villain. Killed people. He ran an empire. And what made his finale so great was that he did get his comeuppance. Like Nancy Baldwin with Weeds, another drug dealer who's trying to do right by her family. But heel. You have people that I like Joker and Harley Quinn. I like them, much like I like the New Day. There are a couple others like Loki for the Marvel Universe, the Cinematic Universe. He is to some degree, a phenomenal heel, but people love him. And probably one of the greatest examples of a heel, totally a bad guy, but in some respects you can understand what he was trying to do, and that being Darth Vader. If you think about it, like a dad who just wanted his kid to join, or his kids to join his side. In the end, that's ultimately what he wanted. But anyway, as I'm watching the show, looking at my notes, first thing I do see, which Ashley would have been 30 this week. I saw a post from her mom, and it's always in the back of my head to some degree, but yeah, she would have been 30. It's crazy. So takeaways from Raw. I'll go through that, and then we'll just continue. So, like I said, John Cena, the beauty of the challenge, the story, I think John Cena, again, like the presentation, presenting him as the ultimate good guy, because ultimately, I think there's an inherent good in him. So, and he's going to do the right thing, and he's got the motto. He's got a code, which makes him a great babyface. He's got a motto. He's got something that's positive that people can buy into. Much like Hogan had the say your prayers, take your vitamins, drink your milk, all that. The American motto. And John, the hustle, loyalty, respect, and never give up. That it's a great mantra. But and I don't quite get the level of hate, because he is such a great representation of not just WWE, but professional wrestling. I mean, a guy who is in the mainstream for giving back to, the Make-A-Wish stuff. Alone. This guy, and I've mentioned my admiration for him, not just for his work ethic, but the stuff, like, I watched the first season of Total Divas, particularly because they would have John Cena on it, and his response to certain things, certain aspects of that show, just like, wow, like I have an immense respect for the guy. And I don't understand the amount of flack that he gets, although, again, Superman gets a lot of flack. And I like Superman, but there are times where I'm like, man, I want more of a challenge. I just don't ever understand the argument to change or force John Cena to turn evil. Like, he doesn't have to. I think, again, the beauty of the challenge is that he can play kind of the fighting champion, but there can be aggressive villainy tactics because he now his motto is he is the face that runs the place. So slowly but surely the character's evolving because he's seeing his relevance within the product. Now that he's going to take a break, wow. I think kudos, man. Kudos. Hopefully whoever, if he is legitimately going to take a break, you never know with John, but whoever ultimately unseats him as U.S. champion, I hope they let that person carry the momentum. We'll see. We'll see. I liked it. I thought a great closing sequence with Kofi getting the win in the six-man. Again, I'm looking forward to the live from Madison Square Garden. And it'd be great if the Dudleys won it in Madison Square Garden, because I mean that would be something of significance on the network, because it would also ultimately drive people to see it. Like, wow, you should have seen it when it happened. And mind you, they can switch the titles pretty fast back if they needed to. I mean, if they wanted that feel-good story. So yeah. Then you had the Team PCB, Team Bella segment. And I hear people's criticisms of it. And there's so much criticism out there that I don't know. Like, I thought this segment, which started with Charlotte and Becky, was way better than their first time being on Miz TV. I thought that one was really, man, tough to watch. But, I think you got the Bellas. I think they ended up going over Paige. You had Natalya. But Paige, again, delivering, they want her to turn, and as I said, I thought it was a great promo because it shook up things. It's no longer the team dynamic. They're starting to break away, and you're hoping it's going to lead to more compelling television. Although I'm compelled because of the people in place. I think Paige's Paige Bomb promo, as she refers to it, carried a lot of truth to some degree on a skewed level, and I don't know, sometimes it's good for someone to switch. And the way she did switch, or is switching, I don't know, it's a gradual thing, because there is these hints of reality, which I'll touch in a little bit. Let's see, the Kane Rollins stuff, great character stuff, like Kane having the, dual personality stuff. Again, I've heard the complaint or the fact that they're borrowing something from TNA, which that's what every wrestling company probably does. They borrow from one another. They see what works elsewhere, whether it be, with another wrestling product or another form of entertainment, and they bring it in and do their own spin. I'm just as entertained by Kane, if not more so, because it's just the way they did it. The build-up, this HR person who was legitimately an HR person, giving Kane her assessment and then assessing Rollins, and Rollins, that whole thing, like the what's in the box segment, and then later on the beatdown. After Rollins gets assessed, and it's a negative assessment because Rollins is a heel. He's just very athletic, and people are like, man, he's going to make a great babyface one day. And it's like, man, I just want him to remain a heel. Like, just stay a heel. Because he embraces it, and I enjoy it, and he doesn't need to change just yet. I think if guys kind of stay their course, they're going to get more out of it in the long run. And I'm enjoying his run. And who they put before him, look, man, they're going after the title. That's a big deal. And if you don't like who they have in that place, understand that, you know, the focus of it really is, look, through it all, it's about Seth Rollins and his set to the top and his, you know, what he does as the guy. And he is considered the guy. They've put such significance on him. And the truth is that, as, you know, the more athletic feats that he pulls off, you know, the level of match quality that he has, obviously at some point he will become a babyface. But I'm loving the run, and I like what they're doing with Kane. I like this dual personality stuff. He isn't a you know, he isn't a place of authority yet. He does have this demon, which people can complain about it, but I thought the end, that end result with him, the ambulance stopping and him having kind of this supernatural rebirth, and you know, the stomping on the ground to heal the leg, and the theatrics, and again proving Kane's worth, because you buy into every aspect of what he does. Right now he's a demon, so kind of evil, but we love it, much like we love Finn Balor when he becomes a demon, even though it's, yeah, it's a demon. It's a demon. I don't, anyway. Couple of other things, like in between that, there was the Stardust versus Neville getting the win. I like Stardust, the comic book villain, having the Ascension with him. Now, if they keep them in a holding pattern, that's fine, because realistically, they probably will be in that spot for a bit until other things kind of shake out. I mean, you have the introduction of the Wyatt family as a tag team, and that dynamic, that's a pretty awesome team, and seeing what they did to the Primetime Players, who are kind of in a holding pattern as well. So you kind of feel, you see all these teams and you're just hoping the interest remains on them. But Stardust, I think, does a phenomenal job of remaining ultimately in character always. And one of those over-the-top elements, now they call it a comic book element, but it's great because it can survive within the universe, which is in a bigger scale based on reality, or that's the era that they're trying to get into, which I'll talk about in a second. But anyway, speaking of which, Bray Wyatt, the Paradox. There are some, you know, I listen to Jim Ross saying what's so heel about him. But when you see him in the ring, it's very heelish. His message, while there's shreds of truth, he ultimately is telling you he's evil. And I can understand the Paradox because of the shining lights. Well, he's a cult figure. It's not everyone doing it, and it's not and to some degree it's not manufactured, but it is. But that presentation, like, it is a gray area, I guess. But no, truly, he is trying to be evil. He tells you he's the new face of evil. It's not his fault that what he's, well, I guess it is his fault because he delivers it with such charisma that he is followed. Much like, to a very extreme example, Charles Manson. Like, somewhat evil. Yeah, very evil. He masterminded some stuff, didn't apparently pull the trigger or anything like that. But anyway, again, mastermind, cult leader, very charismatic. And to some degree, if you agree with it, then to you he may be a hero or not such a bad guy. But again, going back to Bray, I think that's the element. He is dangerous. But you can't help it if people like him. That's just kind of the society we live in. Again, the microcosm. Always interesting when you have... I always find it interesting that Bo Dallas either precedes... he either follows or he precedes Bray. And the fact that they kind of always put them around each other as far as segments go. I always find it interesting. Orton, another... Like, I like the role that he's in. He's kind of he's the veteran of that locker room, very, very sure of his place in the annals of WWE. It has a phenomenal move. That's more or less why he's a babyface. But the truth is that he wants to bring the crowd in, and I think he does a great job. Now Ziggler. Woo! Kind of the influence of, I mean, what happens on Total Divas ultimately could sway what they do with him on Raw. They could stay the course and keep him where he's at, or see the potential money in a Ziggler Cena like babyface gray area. But you know, Ziggler kind of the guy that the hardcore fans really want to see succeed, going against the guy that they're damned because he does succeed. And just the real life situation with Nikki Bella potentially, and there could be that element there. You could see a side of Ziggler, and sometimes I could see it like if he just fought dirtier, I guess. Because when he's really aggressive, I buy into that. I don't want to see the show off all the time. I want to see elements of the show off, but I want to see it with a purpose. So, yeah, but there you go. Again, I like the Paul Heyman Big Show promo. Again, building up. You would like... I probably would have liked, personally, because it's Brock, I would have liked the Brock UFC package where he just talks smack. And because you need it to kind of sell the fight, even though you got Paul, it'd be great if they had done kind of a UFC, because it's a big fight feel. That's probably the only thing I would have tweaked, but I was fine with it. And I'm fine with them headlining with those two, because ultimately, guys, Big Show's a treasure. There's not another one like him, and you should enjoy the fact that he's there, and he's very versatile. And again, snap of his fingers, he can turn into a legitimate threat to anybody, because he has a great finisher that they really do a good job of putting over. And I'm going to really look forward to seeing him and Brock go at it, because they've had some historic stuff, some very awesome stuff. So yeah, oh, and then Wyatt and Reigns, like, victim of the internet, having a problem with them going, here's the next guy. We like this guy. Look at him. Look at the package. He looks like a star. And the people like, yeah, but he's not the guy we want. We want that Daniel Bryan guy, but no. And it, you know, again, they went, wow, man, but we really like this guy. I don't know, their match was awesome, and it's just the next chapter. And I understand people were like, oh, there's not a definitive, blah, 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 blah. Well, they're going to keep them going, because this fight's not going to end anytime soon. It helps both guys. If they continue to do what they're doing, what they did on Monday, if they do it moving forward, especially with the Wyatt family, and you got Dean Ambrose there, and the potential like Randy Orton and a few others, whoever. But that story can keep both guys occupied going into the Rumble, which is probably what they're saying. Look, we're just going to kind of stay the course with certain things until the Rumble, and the Rumble will shake out a lot of stuff, and then we'll see where we go from there. Because who knows what they're doing at WrestleMania. I know it's going to be huge. You know what? After Raw, and again, I DVR'd, so I kind of see it after the fact. Friday came on. Can you believe it's been 20 years since Friday first came out? That definitive movie. It's one of those that whenever it plays, you're just like, yeah. Whenever you see it, you just have to watch it. Another thing I watched during the week, NXT All-Stars panel, I will say this, yeah, kind of thoughts. I thought it was a very good view. Because you had Triple H kind of let you know what his thoughts are as far as running the product and what he sees. And I thought one of the greatest takeaways from it, aside from the television aspect, which was phenomenal, it's great insight into, especially when you talk to Finn Balor and about, you know, the thought process into the entrances and how terribly important they are. I tell talent all the time, like, get it down and get it, you know, get those cameramen to know what you want to do, especially if you got something elaborate. And that's the beauty of NXT in a nutshell, is that they pay attention to all the little minor things to put out a very good product. But aside from that, the stuff with Sasha Banks as far as what he wanted for a reaction from her when she won the title in that four-way, and how he didn't want her to worry about the character, but he wanted the genuine emotion, and she was in character. And you know how he was like, oh, if only you would just let it, you know, kind of let the moment take over, because that's what we want. That's going to draw the people into more further. Now, obviously, Sasha's thought process is, hey, I'm a heel and I need to remain it, but you can't stop progress, you know. And if you're progressing in that direction, which I think she is, yeah, I just which I'll touch more about that in a moment. But I thought it was really interesting. Another show I am enjoying as it continues. Wow, what an episode of Gotham! And you talk about heels or villains and how they become. And I mentioned Joker. And there's a guy this guy Cameron Monaghan from Shameless. I haven't seen a whole lot of Shameless. I know my girl sees Shameless and my boy Adrian sees Shameless. I've only seen a handful of episodes, but apparently he's from that show. But now he's here and he's playing Jerome Valeska, who potentially is the Joker. That is what they're hinting at, you know, with his mannerisms. And I thought, hadn't really seen a whole lot of that yet. They're really just starting to kind of show that. And I thought he did an excellent job being the Joker. Like, he seemingly borrowed elements from each variation of the Joker that's been portrayed so far, from Heath Ledger's to, from Heath Ledger's to a little bit of Mark Hamill's. Like, he had kind of a hybrid of those influences, which are great influences. But I thought he did a phenomenal job in the rise of the villains, like this idea of, in order to generate interest in our product, a la Gotham, look, we focused on the good guy and his story, and we're going to continue to focus on that. But these villains need to come about, because in order for good to rise to the occasion, they need villains that are, you know, they need evil that is already at a high level, and that's what they're doing here on Gotham. And I thought it was phenomenal, because it just a great showcase. But again, you're liking the villains. I liked Jerome. I liked his gumption. Now, wrestling products as a whole differ. There's an old school mentality, good versus evil. And then there's the WWE approach. So I thought I'd take a moment to look at those. You look at ROH's approach. They have a code of honor. It's about competition. Very similar to NJPW. I think that's where they're mostly influenced by. Code of honor, the handshake, everybody's on equal ground. There are examples of evil, you know, like very popular heels, like the Kingdom. But generally, because of Maria, that I think the guys are talented, but I don't want to say they're douches. Them not as people. The characters they portray are being douchebags, but what makes them somewhat popular is the fact that they have Maria and she's attractive. But they do very heelish stuff. Dalton Castle, he's got his boys, and he's flamboyant, kind of over the top, but the fans love him because he's very talented. Never goes out of character, but he doesn't do anything. I mean, he cheats here and there because he's got the boys. But he's popular. People like him. Now you have your definitive heels, like the Addiction, very heel, get a whole lot of boos. And then you got Jay Lethal, extremely talented, but again, heel, because of the tactics, the House of Truth and whatnot. Then you got your clearly defined faces, like, or good guys, like Roderick Strong, Mr. ROH, he's defending the honor of the company, always. And guys like War Machine, just a bunch of, a couple of kick-ass dudes. Same thing with NJPW. They treat it, it's about competition, the respect for the art form and the sport. But they do have heels who are popular because of their antics, like the Bullet Club. Although they're not as, they're kind of changing the way things are done at NJPW because of the Americanized tactics of run-ins and so on and so forth. But they're popular because of their merch. They're selling merch. So yeah, because you ultimately want to double your revenue stream. And if you have popular heels that can sell merchandise, it helps with your bottom line, which is making money. And so, yeah. TNA, they're kind of the old school definitive, they have an old school definitive approach. You got EC3, he's the heel champion. He's a bona fide heel. You got Drew Galloway, who's a bona fide face with what he does, how he stands up, so on and so forth. You got the Dollhouse, who are heels that I like to watch. Yeah. I really like Eric Young. He's a villain, but I like him because of his antics, the psychology of the crazed. Oh, real quick, congrats to Tommaso Ciampa, who was on both NXT and TNA. I have to ask, who do you feel you utilized him better? Did TNA with the triple threat, or did NXT with not just the tag match? Tag went to the second round of that tournament and also faced Tyler Breeze. I wonder which one do you think utilized him better and really made him look as good as possible? My vote would be NXT, by the way. Lucha Underground, it's a TV show, so they can truly define their heels and villains, and more importantly, they're not trying to overstep their bounds with their outreach. Now, they have a social media presence, but that doesn't interfere with the stories that they're trying to tell. And a lot of it has to do with that they have created their own characters for the most part, from Mil Muertes to Prince Puma, to Son of Havoc, to Pentagon Jr. to a degree, because he wasn't familiar here. Even Vampiro can kind of go into that supernatural element on the show. They could kind of go over top with that because it's in essence a story that utilizes wrestling to help tell that story. I like their approach because it's more of an old school, look at things. Good versus evil. That ultimately is always going to win. Comic book movies are popular for a reason because they're a representation of good versus evil. So yeah. Now, wrestling's had its fill of those that blurred the lines, that were villains to some degree, or baby faces, and for whatever reason, more villains that would get a positive response. You look at like Ric Flair, probably him and the Four Horsemen are the very definition of cool heel before it was even a term, even though he was heel. He was a beatable champion who had his boys have his back, and they'd always use the numbers game, but they were cool because fans respected Ric Flair and wanted to be like Ric Flair because he was the life of the party. You look at the NWO, the epitome of cool heels. Catering to the crowd, trying to get a positive response for their message, much like the survey that was taken by Scott Hall. But a heel group. popular. If you look at DX with Shawn Michaels, that initial iteration of it, definitely an example of kind of, you know, the cool heel. Like you really respected Shawn Michaels' talent, which is probably why you agreed. Plus, they were doing something different. They had like the sophomoric antics, but ultimately they were heels. Bret Hart, when he was anti-American, so he was a villain here, but he was definitely revered everywhere else. Eddie Guerrero, he lied and cheated and stole, but still is a babyface. It became that portion. People wanted to see him lie, cheat, and steal. You know, Stone Cold, who created the anti-hero, you know, probably the best interpretation of that word, anti-hero, probably created because of Stone Cold. But typically, I mean, really, an aggressive, very ultra-aggressive babyface, I guess. But really, heel, man. Same thing with Brock, a heel. He stole, he took away from everybody the streak, so we hated him, you big bully. But we grew to like it because he was so different than everybody else, because he just was seemingly this unstoppable beast. You look at Taker, revered, legend, supernatural, so to speak, and yet, you know, his last win, he low-blowed his opponent, and he cheated. He cheated. But that's what you can do when you achieve a certain level. I think back to the days of ECW with Rob Van Dam, when he was the whole effing show, and it was the television title run especially, where he, I don't know, man, where he, you know, was a heel, had a lot of heel tendencies, but was revered by the crowd because he was such a talented dude. So there's those elements. I mean, I think Sasha Banks is getting the same, I want to say she's kind of in the same mold as those people that I've mentioned before. Great heels that are so talented that you can't help but cheer them. And it's just a matter of time. I think, you know, you look at SmackDown, her Team Bad to a degree, man, like becoming the baby faces and the way that they got the win and all that. But Sasha, man, really, like, she's one of those that you know, she does heelish stuff because she is so, you know, sure of herself and whatnot, but at the same time, she's so talented that you can't help but cheer. You know, I've spoken of New Day and Stardust. Kevin Owens, a heel. If you think about it, he's a bully, talks a lot of smack. He leaves when it's not going his way. You know, he's a bully. Takes full advantage when of people in a weakened state. But he's the everyday man. He's like the everyday man heel. If you think about it, you know, he's doing for his family. He's a prize fighter. Very, very confident. You know, and in some respects, you kind of back what he's saying. He's the everyday man. He's what you would see in the audience. He's a truly talented guy, and I'm a fan of his work. But at the same time, I mean, I could see why he could make that switch. Now, WWE. Well, before WWE, I'll look at UFC real quick before I get to WWE. UFC, to some degree, even though they don't like to talk about it, and they shun at the idea of professional wrestling, you know, you got Dana White using the F word. Fake. Oh my God, he used that word. It's so horrible. Now, there's a lot of fake out there. Come on. Including some of the elements that he uses. Like, for instance, Brock Lesnar. An outsider. He had credentials. He talked like an outsider. A villain. Became popular because of it. Because he had personality. Much like Tito Ortiz. Really made a name for himself, you know, skill in the ring, but it was really for what he would say at those press conferences. Very heel-like. Like Chael Sonnen. Very heel-like. Now, really didn't get noticed until he became very vocal. Kind of like John Jones. You know, you're cocky. When it's built on respect and competition, you become cocky. That's a heel way, but it is very villain-like. And Ronda Rousey, to a lot of degree, very heel-like, but because of her personality, look how famous she's become. Her fights are must-see because you either are looking for her to remain dominant, or you're waiting for the time where she gets dropped. You're just waiting for one of those. Now, I'm a fan of hers, but she does talk a lot of smack. Speaking of talking smack, Conor McGregor. Like a heel persona. Talking smack, taking titles. Very heel-like, but very popular, and it's bleeding over to mainstream. So yeah, I don't know. Everybody loves the villain. Now, being a villain in WWE's reality era is probably very tough. There are a lot of rules, a lot of things you can't do. It's a publicly traded company. Unlike other companies, they have more handcuffs than most others. Like TNA, they can get away with more. Kind of be that traditional wrestling program, whereas Lucha Underground can be more of a fantastical, over-the-top variation of wrestling. They can truly define their characters because they're not worried about they have a social media presence as a brand, but their talent doesn't necessarily need a social media presence. It's more about the brand than the actual wrestlers that are involved. They're the players in the Lucha Underground world. Now with WWE, the reality era. Some could say, you look at NXT as a prime example of what the future probably will hold, where every character will have a niche, something that will generate an interest from the fans. Some type of gimmick that sells merchandise. Because again, you want to have double. You want to have good heroes that sell merch, and you want to have good villains that sell merch. I think the influence of social media, unfortunately, with WWE, it's a broader brand. They're on social media. And that changes the dynamic, so to speak, because this is a living, breathing person, no longer just a character on television. Seth Rollins has problems like everyone else. He's a performer on the brand. John Cena is a living human being, a three-dimensional living, breathing human being, and he has he's got a life, and I think that influences how they do things overall, or how they will continue to do things overall. It won't necessarily matter. It's going to be all about character, and if you can remain that character all the time, even in the realm of reality. Guys like Stardust, again, can live within it. Undertaker can live within it. Brock is like a legitimate, it's a 365-day kind of thing. The influence of the heel section of fans. I know WWE hears it all the time. Hears it. And that vocal element of criticism changes how they want to do things. They may very well want Sasha Banks to remain one of these ultimate great heels, but the fans want to see her, and so it's just a matter of time before they need to turn her. Luckily, they've kind of stayed the course with Roman, but again, they've put him on this, he's not after the main title, he's got this feud with another guy that they want near the top, but not quite at the top, just on the rise. The influence of Total Divas. Now, I mentioned Ziggler appearing on that show, and I just saw the trailer, and they hyped that pretty much throughout their programming, but how does that translate? What ends up happening? Would they go with that, pull the trigger, based on Total Divas? Some would say that the reason Nikki won was champion for as long as she was because of Total Divas. as a way of saying, no, those reports of Total Divas being able to influence who we put the belt on, we're not going to put it on a cast member, are totally false, and we'll prove it. Or the fact that Eva Marie has to be seen, as opposed to just developing at house shows, she has to be seen because she's on Total Divas. She has a job because of that show. She's just now having to wrestle, which I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. The influence of their public face. You look at the Authority, for instance. They have to portray this point of authority, and because they're who they are as characters on the show, there's that evil element inherent in them. But at the same time, they also are legitimately in power within the WWE, and they have to carry a public face. You have the anti-bullying campaign, or the Be a Star campaign, and you have the Bellas, who are kind of bad guys, being thrust in the forefront. It's the public face. It's that blurring of lines that that's taking place right now. And I know WWE is trying to be just bigger and have a far bigger reach than what they have even now, and they have a pretty big reach. So again, I think they have to blur the lines to some respect, and because of them getting not criticized but critiqued from a wide variety, from the public, from fans, from hardcore fans, from mainstream fans, from the mainstream, from just the social stigma to some degree that wrestling as a whole has to endure. But they are the forefront of it, and they have to do stuff that puts wrestling in the most positive light humanly possible so that they can remain a part of the mainstream. I would talk ratings. Don't really want to talk ratings. Maybe that's for another time. Now, me personally, heel or villain, I really enjoy being a villain. I'm not going to lie. There's a certain enjoyment I have in being evil, in having that backup, in making alliances and then stabbing them in the back. You don't have to worry about the rules. You know how to bend them. But on the flip side, I do want to sell merchandise, and they're not going to buy if you're a true douchebag. You know, they're going to buy it if they like you or see some they see some entertainment in what you do. I know at some point I was really concerned with which one. I can kind of, and I know that when I would perform, especially later on, especially after the title runs are in the midst of them, that I did have the respect of the fans. But so I know I can come in there and be, you know, a good guy, but still I can flip it on a dime if I need to, especially depending on who I'm facing. I know when I faced AJ, there was that blur, like I got the respect of the fans, but he was really popular, and my whole outlook with that was to make it so that they knew he could compete with me, and even not only hang, but really kind of show me a thing or two. And being the proud vet, I could take the role of a villain for the purpose of that match. What I try to tell talent is that character's always going to win in the end. That's what gravitates people to watch you, especially in the medium of professional wrestling. That hero or villain, it's really about justification. The villain's job is to get people to come watch him get beat or beat up. That's the villain's job. It's to yeah. You know, the hero's job, or good guy, or babyface's job, his job is to be the heartbeat of the crowd. To get sympathy, and to be able to still have the fire to come back through it all. No matter how big the obstacle, how numerous the bumps in the road, and they come out victorious in the end, or they persevere, or they get up once they're knocked down. So yeah, that kind of partial stream of consciousness, partial note-taking session. I enjoyed this topic. Real quick, I saw the season finale review. Wow. Wow. The Rick and Morty with Tiny Rick, where the parents go get marriage counseling, and ultimately what happens, like that was something. Tiny Rick. Elliott Smith, I do remember, I think it's the Good Will Hunting soundtrack. That's, yeah. God, so such like, even hearing that little bit when they were trying to get through to old Rick in the clone, I thought, oh man, that's brought back such memories. The next topic, I'm really unsure. Like, part of me, the social conscious part of me, wants to talk about anxiety, the causes and effects of it, and how it's affected me, and really what brings about it. Like, there's that I want to talk about. I may save that one because next week, I mean, I don't think I'll see Bound for Glory. I don't know if I want to pay my money. Like, the network is one thing. I'll see those pay-per-views, but I don't know, outside of like WrestleMania or the Royal Rumble or SummerSlam. There's very few shows that I will, I hate to say that, there are very few shows that I will like buy on pay-per-view. Like, I'll watch it if it's streaming, or I'll watch it if it's on television. But that goes for quite a bit. Like, there are very few UFC fights that I would get just to get. And I don't know if I'd get a Mayweather fight. I haven't gotten the last couple. Because I just don't care. I don't know. I hate to put it that bluntly, but they haven't done or said anything that made me want to watch. No amount of build-up made me want to watch them. But I will say WrestleMania comes around and I'm aching to see it. Or if an NXT group comes around, I'm wanting to go watch them and pay good money. Or if I wasn't part of reality wrestling, I'd probably go to a reality wrestling show because of what they're trying to do there. I mean, me being the very small part of the, one of the cogs in the wheel. But at the same time, I see the value of that show. There is the Live at MSG special. I will watch that, and I'm sure I will watch the TakeOver special with the Iron Woman match. Yes, I will call it the Iron Woman match between Bayley and Sasha Banks, and I'm very much looking forward to how that match turns out. I'm very much looking forward to the finals of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. I really want to see how that turns out. I could kind of see where they could go with it, and what they would do with the finals. Tyler Breeze and Apollo Crews, I think, is on the card. But ultimately, it really is about the main event. It is about the women, the Iron Women, history being made in WWE on NXT. I think NXT is a phenomenal brand, and realistically, yes, the future, if you want to see what the future potentially could be at WWE. But I will say this, because a lot of people criticize Raw's running time. And there are some that don't watch SmackDown. Now, I'm not one of those. Before filming this, I was in the midst of SmackDown. I believe I had just seen the sixth man between the Cosmic Wasteland and the Lucha Dragons that Gravity forgot. I think that's the name of the groups. That should be, that's a t-shirt, Neville and Lucha Dragons. The Lucha Dragons that Gravity forgot. And the Cosmic Wasteland. There's t-shirts that need to be printed. But anyway, so I watched both. Now, people complain, people say, wow, if Lucha Underground, could you imagine Lucha Underground having a 3-hour-a-week show? Or a 5-hour-a-week show? 5 hours in a week. But 3 on Monday and 2 on Friday. Could you see Lucha Underground pulling that off? Could you see TNA pulling that off? Could you see Ring of Honor pulling that off? Could you see UFC pulling that off? 3 hours on a Monday, 2 hours on a Friday. In the same week. So for those that complain about the creativity or this, that, or the other, again, I could talk ratings. That could be a potential topic. I don't know, because there was anxiety. But again, there's the week that WWE is going to have, and all of it's going to be on the network, except for Raw, which I'll talk, I will watch the build-up to see if John Cena potentially is going to take time off and who he's going to potentially face at Hell in a Cell, which again I will probably end up watching. But yeah. So yeah, that was it. I had fun today with this. I have fun most times. I like this a little bit more because it was like a main topic that could really sink my teeth into, as opposed to just watching everything and trying to notate everything. That's not to say that I won't do those in the future, or that I wouldn't do more conversation pieces. I do plan on it, especially as we get close to the opening of the building. The Reality of Wrestling Performance Center, the world headquarters, as Booker likes to call it. Very much looking forward to what comes about with that. Appreciate all those that watch 2 videos in 1 week. I don't think I'll be doing that again anytime soon. I doubt that will be the case. I will try to stick to once a week, potentially on Sundays. Sometimes I'll be filming them early, much like I filmed this one early. So yeah, I've got a few topics in mind. Oh, the art of the promo I may even talk about. But I think next week will be devoted to, at least in part, Live at MSG and the TakeOver Respect. NXT TakeOver Respect. I must correct myself. So yeah, again, thanks for all your feedback. Thanks for the views. Thanks for enjoying the show. As I always like to say, stay cool, stay sexy, stay classy. But you know what you should do? If you get the opportunity, make 1 day a week your fun day. Find that, get with some friends, and just enjoy, or loved ones, and just enjoy the day. I know I will be enjoying my Sunday fun day. But if you get to do that, or at least can make the effort, then you're already all those. Until the next time,